Oh, my sister was humiliated, crying on her hands and knees. A woman on board a United Airlines flight was humiliated when a flight attendant asked her to clean up the popcorn that her daughter had spilled all over the plane floor. It's got the internet debating, should parents be forced to clean up their kids' messes on flights and in public spaces? I'm JoJo and I be on the go-go. I like to use my love of travel to have conversations about politics and culture. The simplest answer to this question is yes. Yes, you should clean up after your child, especially in public places. But that's a simple answer, so let's get into it. Sydney Bass, the wife of Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Anthony Bass, was flying on an airplane at 22 weeks pregnant, along with her 5-year-old and 2-year-old daughters. The 2-year-old had spilled popcorn all over the plane floor and even on the seat of the plane. The flight attendant addressed the mom with a trash bag and a wet wipe, asking that she clean up the popcorn that her daughter had spilled. Her baseball player husband and her country music singer sister took to social media about the incident. Since then, they have received a lot of flack, and United Airlines has stated that they are handling the issue with the flight attendant internally. A bit of background about me: I'm not a parent, I've never been on an airplane while pregnant, but I have dealt with a lot of y'all snotty-nosed kids on these planes. There was one incident in particular when I was flying from California to Washington, D.C., and this child kicked and screamed the entire time. It was a red-eye flight, so naturally a lot of people were hoping to get some sleep. I thankfully successfully got to sleep for a few hours, but that child was crying when I went to sleep, and that child was crying when I woke up. I don't believe it ever stopped. Judging by the faces on the other passengers, it had never stopped. Hours and hours of crying. I could do this for hours and hours and hours. And you know what? I respectfully and quietly rolled my eyes and put on my noise-canceling headphones, and I ignored that child. I ignored it as best as I could. Yes, I was annoyed. Yes, I definitely made a couple faces, but I did not throw a temper tantrum. I can say that.
We are in a tin can with a baby in a echo chamber, and you want to talk to me about being okay?
Also, I did travel on an airplane essentially alone with 2 children. My nibblings were just 4 and 5 years old at the time. That was stressful. It was hot. It was tiring. It was smelly. I would not wish it on anyone, so I can't imagine traveling alone while pregnant with kids that were even younger than those 2. So the internet, of course, is saying it's your child and it's your responsibility. I typically hate these sorts of discussions because our society puts a lot of pressure and responsibility on parents, especially moms, and I'm typically the kind of person who thinks it takes a village to raise a child. 90% of the time, I will be on the mom's side of things. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me. You know, anytime I see a pregnant woman or a woman with a stroller, I'm like, do I have to get up, give up my seat? Should I help her up the stairs? But today is not one of those days. Today is the other 10% of the time when I think that there were so many other ways to handle this situation. Going on to Twitter and Instagram complaining was probably not one of those. Like many others have suggested, this could have been a teachable moment. Your child is 2 years old, not 5 months. They are usually capable of cleaning up after themselves at that age. And you also have a 5-year-old with you who could join in on the reindeer games, play Barney's cleanup song, and keep it moving.
Clean up, everybody, everywhere. Clean up, everybody, do your share.
It did not have to be this big of a deal. And also, why are you letting your child just eat popcorn like that? That just sounds messy. Small kids plus small snacks equals a mess. Always. you're a parent, so be the parent. Maybe hold the popcorn and give your child a few at a time. I'm also kind of shocked that no other passengers helped her out, which makes me think that maybe there's a little bit more to this story. Maybe there's a little bit more to her actions or attitudes that made people feel like, your responsibility. I mean, if I was on that plane, I definitely would have helped out. I would find a small space in my heart for a bit of empathy. But what was so interesting to me is that her sister took to social media and say that, oh, my sister was humiliated, crying on her hands and knees. Okay, so she was humiliated because she had to clean up after her child on her hands and knees. But she wasn't humiliated when her child made the mess in the first place? Interesting. There's a bit of entitlement here that you did not expect to be asked to clean up after your child. For me, it all comes down to the fact that these people have money. They have enough money to do better. So do better. Anthony Bass gets paid $750,000 a year plus sponsorships. We're talking about millionaires. I saw a comment of someone saying that he was just standing up for his wife and defending her, and all that is cute and all, but if you really wanted to support your wife, why is she traveling alone with 2 kids while pregnant? Why wasn't there a nanny or a travel companion or some sort of assistance to help her out? Y'all make enough money. You got the money for it, so why not? Someone who would have actually gotten paid to clean up after your child, which the flight attendant does not. Someone who could have even prevented the mess from being made in the first place. I know these flight attendants are tired of y'all. The airline industry is already going through it. This was not this flight attendant's best day. And sure, we can make a case that they could have said it differently, but it's all he said, she say at this point. We don't know how the flight attendant actually approached this mom. When someone asks Anthony Bass who he expected to clean up after his child, his response was, the cleaning crew they hire. Well, Mr. Bass, airlines never really had adequate cleaning crews to begin with, and the sort of deep cleaning protocols that we saw at the beginning of the pandemic have slowly faded out, especially on United Airlines. In fact, in between domestic flights, cleaning crews have just a few minutes to tidy up, and most of that time is focused on changing the trash, sanitizing, and cleaning the lavatory, not vacuuming up your child's popcorn off of the floor. The sort of deep cleaning, vacuuming, going through the cushions, that happens with the overnight crews after a plane has gone through a couple of flights. So essentially, asking the flight attendant to clean up after you is not just about like you're expecting the cleaning crews to clean up after an even bigger mess than what they're usually expecting, but it's also the fact that when that plane has a turnover, when your kids leave that plane and the cleaning crew does their best to clean up in the short amount of time that they have, and I know those flights were delayed because United Airlines has been delayed since 2022. So the next batch of passengers are made to sit in the mess that you and your family created. It's the lack of class and etiquette for me. And the flight attendants are so sick of y'all. Sick of y'all. Rightfully so. Between grown men throwing temper tantrums because babies are doing what babies do.
Why is the baby yelling? I'm not screaming. You want me to scream? You want me to scream? I'll scream.
And fights.
Notoriously, this incident in which a female passenger punched out a Southwest Airlines flight attendant and broke her front teeth.
Full-on brawls at the gate. I would have done the same thing this flight attendant did. The airline industry is full of tired, overworked, and underpaid workers. Stop playing with them. Here are a few facts about the airline industry you may not have been aware of. There have been several rounds of layoffs of flight attendants and cleaning crews since 2020. In fact, a lot of these crews are working with skeleton crews, literally just the bare minimum amount of people for it to be legal. There is currently a pilot shortage. Pilots are being overworked and forced to work long hours because literally there's no one to cover their shift. Flight attendants only get paid for the time when they are actually in the air. So that flight attendant was not about to clean up after your baby after you had left because they're literally not getting paid for that time. Recently, the FFA, the Federal Aviation Administration, is threatening to fine United Airlines $1 million for skipping multiple safety checks. Baby girl, baby love. The flight attendants are busy making sure that you are safe. They are focused on saving your life in the event of an emergency. They are not your maids. They are not your waitresses. They are not there to clean up after your baby's mess. Ultimately, we are talking about an incident with a millionaire rich white family that decided to leverage their social media clout in order to appease their own entitlement. In my opinion, I'm not spending too many of my brain cells on this and certainly not lending more sympathy than is necessary. I do want to be clear that I do not blame these kids. I don't think that they should be punished. Kids are kids, and we should just expect that there are going to be messes. But we are the adults, and the adults need to take responsibility. The Washington Post quoted Jacqueline Whitmore, and I think it sums it up perfectly. She's an etiquette expert and a former flight attendant who had this to say about flight attendants. Their main jobs are to keep passengers safe, not to wait on them. So, what do you think? Would you have helped Sydney Bass in this situation? Would you have helped her clean up the popcorn mess that her child made? Who's at fault? What things could have been done differently? Do you think the flight attendant was a bit too harsh? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Love to hear them. If you're picking up what I'm throwing down, please share this video with a friend. You can like this video or subscribe to my channel. I not only make YouTube videos about travel, culture, and politics, but I also facilitate diversity, justice, equity, and inclusion workshops for businesses, religious organizations, and nonprofits as well. If that is something you're interested in, you can check me out at deideas.co. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. You certainly did not have to, but it means so much to me and to the YouTube algorithm. I'm about to catch another flight. I'm about to make another bite. I'm just trying to have a good night. Hey, I'm just trying to have a good night. Ooh.